You probably already know that it was about a year ago that things started changing pretty dramatically related to COVID-19. It was about a year ago that COVID-19 started becoming a thing, whereas previously we hadn't, most of us haven't heard of it, but it was a year ago. In fact, it was 1 year ago this week that a lot of churches made the decision that they were going to shut down their campuses, that they weren't going to have any in-person worship anymore. And then things started changing very, very quickly. It wasn't just churches, it was schools, it was businesses, it was government offices, it was the places where you used to be able to go and hang out with your friends and get together and kick back and relax a little bit. Things changed very, very quickly, and we all know what kind of impact that had on our lives. In Deuteronomy chapter 9, Moses reminds the Israelites of something that had changed very quickly for them, and not for the better. What had changed was the people, the Israelites. In Deuteronomy chapter 9, Moses reminds them of the time that Moses went up to Mount Sinai and spent 40 days talking with God. And while Moses was up there, God said to Moses, "Moses, you need to go back because the people have changed. Their hearts changed quickly. Instead of worshiping God, they started worshiping a golden cow they had made out of gold. Instead of trusting God, they were looking for something else to trust. And instead of living by faith, they were living by something different. Their hearts changed very, very quickly, and we're also familiar with that. We've certainly seen it over the last year, just what's inside people's hearts and not the good stuff, how it's come out in all sorts of new ways, in all sorts of antagonistic ways. More people fighting about new things, not seeing eye to eye on different things and letting it get the best of them. And in some ways, each of us has also seen just how quickly our hearts can become afraid. Our hearts can stop living by faith. I think we've seen just how quickly the worst inside of our own hearts can lash out at someone or throw us into a deep spiral of discouragement that we never saw coming, as if God isn't real and his promises aren't real. That's a very real temptation for all of us, and it's always completely unnecessary. Always. And we see that by looking at something that happened with Moses when he was up on the mountain for 40 days. Moses says that he did not eat or drink at all during those 40 days. He didn't eat or drink at all. Now, sometimes fasting in the Bible, it was from sunrise to sunset, where that was the time that you didn't eat, you didn't drink anything, but then once the sun went down for the night, you could eat or drink something, and then you would start over the next day when the sun rose, you would fast again. But that's not what it says. It says that Moses went without food, without water for 40 days. And then he came back down, and he saw what the Israelites had done, and he got irate. He smashed the 10 Commandments. And then it says he went up the mountain again for 40 days, and he prayed for the Israelites. He prayed that God would have mercy on them. And it also says that he went another 40 days without eating, without drinking. So that's a grand total of 80 days. Moses went without eating, without drinking, and yet somehow God sustained him. Or to say it another way, Moses was okay. He discovered at the end of those 80 days that nothing important really was ever missing. God made sure of that. And God has assured you of the same thing. That the same God who sustained Moses for 80 days on a mountain without any food, without any water, is the God who watches over your life. He's a God who's fully aware of all the important things that have gone missing or that have changed and have quickly changed over the last year. He knows. But none of that changes his wonderful promise, and the promise that we see fulfilled most clearly at the cross, where not only do we see a God who is so determined to provide us with everything, but a God where we see, or a place where we see a God who is determined to provide us with everything. Us, whose hearts can quickly change, not for the better, whose hearts can quickly lose faith, whose hearts can quickly lose their way. And yet, just as God did for the Israelites, He has mercy on us. He knows how hard it is for us to keep our focus on Him, which is why He also always assures us that as often as we turn to Him, His focus is going to be on you. Always. So whatever's changing in the world, whatever happens, whatever's missing, whatever's in your heart, you can rest well tonight, my friends, because God is watching over every aspect of your existence.